Franz von Kearney, Writings by Frank Schmidt on the Danube Swabian people. These collected writings are republished in memory of the author, Frank Schmidt, so that others may continue to enjoy his work. May his spirit live on. Expulsion from the homeland. The biggest blow to the existence of the Danube Swabians came in the latter part of and in the aftermath of World War II. In the summer of 1945, the leading statesmen of the victorious powers of World War II met at Potsdam to divide Europe between them and to mete out collective punishment to the German people for their alleged transgressions. In utter disregard of the avowed principles embodied in the Atlantic Charter, they sanctioned the cruel expropriation and expulsion of the entire German ethnic group of Hungary, with the sanctimonious proviso that it be orderly and humane. The expulsion was anything but humane. Innocent people were driven from their hereditary homeland at gunpoint, with but a few minutes' notice, and had to leave everything behind that was dear to them, forever. No Hungarian government has ever accused the Danube Swabians of any guilt or wrongdoing. So why was the expulsion approved in Potsdam? The sad fact is that it was based solely on racial extraction, and those who were responsible for it were, in today's terminology, racists. It is also a well-known fact that for centuries, German Hungarians had been exemplary citizens of the country and had contributed immeasurably to its prosperity. As we have learned, the double standard is alive and well, and the perpetrators of this ethnic cleansing will go unpunished. During World War II, Hungary sided with Germany to recover its lost territories and in the fight against communism. Without consulting the Danube Swabians, the governments of Royal Hungary, a kingdom without a king, and the German Reich signed an agreement whereby Hungary's Germans had the option of being drafted into the Hungarian army or joining the German battle groups. Since both countries were fighting the same enemy, it was not a hard choice to make. Most opted for the Germans because ethnically, culturally, and linguistically, they had more in common with the Germans. After the war, they would be classed as traitors by the communists and were not allowed to return home. Had they returned home, they would have been deported in any case, just like their friends who had joined the Hungarian army. In Hungary and other Eastern European countries, nationality has the same meaning as ethnic group does here. Though they were Hungarian citizens, the 700,000 Danube Swabians in the country were classed as Germans, not Magyars. So, when a census was taken before the war, they classed themselves as German, as their ancestors had done before them. This was to be their undoing. The communist puppet regime used the census as a basis for their expropriation and deportation from Hungary. When 2/3 of the Danube Swabians had been deported to refugee camps in war-torn Germany, where everything was in short supply, the Americans would not accept any more. Only about 250,000 Danube Swabians remained in Hungary when deportation stopped. For them, the uncertainty did not end until 1949, when they were granted some civil rights, just enough to allow them to keep quiet and work hard for the benefit of the communist regime. It must not be forgotten that in those terrible post-war years, the Danube Swabians who remained in Hungary, as well as the majority of the Hungarian people, helped the Danube Swabians who escaped from Tito's death camps in Yugoslavia by providing food and a safe route to Austria and Germany. During the 1956 Hungarian uprising, when the West looked on while the Russian tanks massacred Hungarian freedom fighters, the Danube Swabians in Austria and Germany were the first to help the escapees with food and shelter. To Hungary's credit, even the hated communist regime did not resort to mass killing, as was the case in Yugoslavia. Since the overthrow of the communists in Hungary and the consequent liberalization, there's been a complete about-face in the country's treatment of its German minority. Danube Swabians may now buy back their expropriated property. Their children, of whom only about 15% still speak German, may learn German as a second language in school. The German language is again the lingua franca of Eastern Europe, a role it has played for 1,000 years in peaceful trade and the spread of Western culture and values. Knowledge of the German language is considered a great asset in dealing with the Saint today. After so many years of fear and repression, people are proud to speak their heritage language again. A German cultural center has been established in Peaks, Fundkirchen, with the aid of former countrymen who had immigrated to Germany, and it has become a mecca of indigenous Danube Swabian culture. Today, after so many years of fear and repression, people are proud to speak their heritage language again. A German cultural center has been established in Pécs, Fundkirchen, with the aid of former countrymen who had immigrated to Germany, and it has become a mecca of indigenous Danube Swabian culture. The wounds are healing, and some Danube Swabian towns have even erected monuments honoring their war dead, no matter what uniform they wore, or wore no uniform, like the men and women who perished in Russian slave labor camps. Hungarian priests have blessed these monuments because everyone knows that those who were honored were decent people, beloved members of local families, who were caught up in a war that was not of their doing. They are regarded as victims of man's inhumanity to man, and therefore worthy of remembrance. In pre-war Yugoslavia, the Danube Swabians were the largest non-Slavic national minority in the country. They made up only 4% of the total population in the country, but the regions where they formed a large part of the population produced 67% of the country's total agricultural exports. Hemp, an important foreign exchange producing the commodity in pre-war Yugoslavia, was 94% in Danube Swabian hands, as was a disproportionate share of the locally manufactured goods, such as articles for the home wagons and farm implements. In the spring of 1941, German and Hungarian forces broke into Yugoslavia and the Royal Yugoslav Army disintegrated in a matter of days. Yugoslavia was, and is, an artificial country. It was created by Western allies after the First World War to reward a Serbian king for his part in starting World War I. The majority of its diverse people had no wish to be included in a country where they had no say. Between wars, the government did nothing to earn their loyalty. Still, when the country mobilized for war just prior to the German-Hungarian invasion, 85% of the Danube Swabians answered the call to arms. Only 35% of the Serbs in the same region showed up at recruiting centers. The main reason for their low turnout was due to the Hitler-Stalin Pact. Tito, who was hiding in Zagreb under an assumed name, urged his communist followers not to fight against the Germans, since they were allies of Moscow. After the war, the same man had the gall to call the Danube Swabians enemies of the state for not resisting the aggressor. The Hungarians reincorporated Baranya and Bačka, the land between the Danube-Tisa rivers, into Hungary. Banat remained in Serbia but was under German occupation. Sirmia and Slavonia became part of a newly created state called Croatia. From 1941 to 1944, the Yugoslav state did not exist, and the Danube Swabians were a minority in 4 states instead of 3. We really value your time spent listening to this interesting episode about the Donauschwaben history on the Franz von Kearney YouTube channel. Our content draws inspiration from Frank Schmidt's insightful writings, uncovering the captivating story of the Danube Swabians. If you found this episode interesting, we'd love for you to support us by liking, subscribing, and sharing it with your Donauschwaben relatives, friends, and social clubs. Anyone curious about the Danube Swabians' captivating past, these small actions make a big difference for a new channel. If you want more info about the Donauschwaben or this episode, check out the show notes below for links and related material. Thanks again for tuning in. Looking forward to next time.
Wir sind Donauschwaben, Kindeskinder.